were like trying to remember which piece you wanted to talk about, if you turn away, if you could just remember to turn back toward us.
Of course.
Just for audio.
Sure.
All right, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead and start recording here. There you go. So the first question that I have for you is, what is your name and how are you associated with South Suburban College?
My name is Nina Weiss, and I actually taught here at South Suburban College as my very first teaching job. I think it was about 1988.
Can you tell me a little bit about why you're back today?
So I was invited to show kind of like a retrospective of my recent landscape work, and this is in contrast to two other shows I've had here at South Suburban, and it sort of helps to illustrate the evolution of my work, so it's really great to be back.
What originally inspired you to become a painter?
I have been painting since I was 11. When I was 11 years old, I told my mom I wanted painting lessons, and that's where it all started. So I started taking lessons at 11, and then started going to the Art Student League in Manhattan at 13, and Rhode Island School of Design summer session at 14. And then I actually was accepted into and went to college art school at 16. So I was pretty much always really focused.
You're doing a great job, by the way. Very informative, like not super long answers. So good job. I could tell that you've done this before.
Oh, I've done this.
Yeah, I could tell. Yeah. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So the next question that I have for you is, I know that you're not actually originally from here. So can you tell me a little bit about your upbringing?
So I was born in Queens and grew up on Long Island. But I like to say, everybody, that I've been sort of homogenized in that I left New York when I was 16, lived in Philly for 3 years, lived in Rome for a year, and then moved out to Wisconsin for grad school. So I've been gone for a really long time. I'm barely an honorary New Yorker. And when I was done with grad school and my teaching certification, I had to figure out where to move to, and I came down to Chicago.
Now, I notice a lot of your work that's in this gallery today, they're landscapes. Were you always into painting landscapes, or is this something that kind of you decided to do a little bit later in your career?
So the landscape passion came into my life when I moved from the East Coast to the Midwest. And because I grew up around New York, I didn't see cornfields or big open spaces. I didn't see farms. And when I moved to Madison, I started biking. And I just fell in love with the landscape, and I fell in love with biking and being alone in the landscape. And I just found ways to continue traveling. I was joking with my students the other day, and I was saying, why travel somewhere where there weren't good landscapes? So I plan my vacation so I can get landscapes. Previously, I did a lot of figurative work, but it really, the passion is really for landscapes.
I know a lot of your work too is more like prairie type settings. When a lot of people think about traveling, they think about traveling to like somewhere tropical or something like that, where you see a bunch of palm trees and the sun setting over the ocean. I see that you're like, I don't know about that.
Right.
So why do you decide to paint landscapes that are more that feature more cornfields and that sort of thing, more prairie type settings instead of tropical?
Well, I think that's because that's where I am. I never was one for sitting on a beach, and although I have taught on a tropical island, I still haven't really painted anything from that tropical island. I'm really attracted to the tangle of foliage in a prairie. I'm attracted to the shape and form of the rolling hills, and this kind of close-up dive into the prairie allows me to attack the formal aspects of painting about line and color and shape and form, and so not like the typical landscape, I think.
And how long have you been painting landscapes?
I moved from Philly to Wisconsin, I want to say in 1980, so probably around 82, 83, I started transitioning into landscape. I really loved figurative work for a while, but once the landscape took hold, I just never went back.
Tell me about the feeling that you get when you're painting landscapes.
Well, it really starts with the feeling I get when I see a landscape that I want to paint. I get really excited. I used to drive along the highway at whatever the speed limit is, 55, of course. And if I was with somebody, I would just yell, stop. And when I was alone, I started stopping on highways, and I would get into trouble because when like a single woman is stopped by the side of a highway, people think you have a flat tire. So people started getting mad at me. So now I don't stop on the highways, but I do get excited whenever I see an amazing composition, and I just know when I have my painting pretty much because I feel it.
How does your process kind of work? So I know that you said that you pull over. Do you take a photograph, or do you how do you remember what that feeling or what that scene is like?
Of course. So nowadays it's more likely that I'm biking, and it's much more easy to stop when you're biking, and I don't have to carry a camera. I used to carry a camera with me. Now, of course, it's just our phones. So I'm really attracted to water, and let's say I'm biking and I stop by a bridge, so I'll stop and take like 10 photos on both sides of the bridge, and then I get to my studio and I look at all the photos, and I may crop a piece, you know, from a 4x6 photo that's maybe like 2x3. So I'm looking for composition. I don't grid it out. I do maybe a preliminary sketch, and then I draw it out in paint on the canvas, and then I work in layers. So what you're seeing in the gallery is a process of working from a ground that's usually like an alizarin crimson, drawing it out with paint, and then layering it up so that all of the layers of paint become almost like an optical mixture.
So do you paint exactly what you see, or do you kind of make alterations as you're painting when it comes to like rule of thirds and that sort of thing? Like, I'm just going rule of thirds because the one that's right behind you, I see rule of thirds.
Right. I think by now that's all intuitive. So it also happens in the cropping. So if I've taken the photo, but let's say the road into the orchard is in the center, then I'll just move my crop over so it's over on the side, just like you noticed. So I have a very good intuition about where composition is. I taught design for many, many years at another college, and I think now it just either feels right or it doesn't, and if a student is asking why, I can tell them exactly why, and it probably does have something to do with the golden rule and all that good stuff.
Can you just tell me about one of the pieces, or maybe two of the pieces in this show, and how you kind of came about that scene and how you were feeling?
What's your favorite piece? What do you want to talk about? It's really hard for me to pick.
It's like picking a child, right? Like a favorite child.
I am fond of this one.
Okay, well, we could talk about this one, yeah. So to my right is a painting called Heron Creek, and this is a forest preserve in the northern suburbs that we went to specifically to walk in, but as you can tell, there's a lot of dead trees, and the herons would make their nests in those trees. I like this scene because it has a little bit of the water that I love to paint, but what I really enjoyed about it was this tangle of underbrush, which allows me to do a lot of surface mark making and gesture. And compositionally, a lot of my paintings have a depth where you can sort of enter in and go back. So it has a lot of spatial depth, foreground, background, and it just sort of ticked off many of my must-have boxes for a landscape. It was fun to paint.
There's another one too that's located, I think, second from the end. I really like that one. That one, it's got a lot of reflections.
Yes.
It's really pretty. Can you tell me a little bit about that one?
Sure. So that's called Old School Reflections, and that is also a byproduct of me biking. That was on one of my bike routes. It is a forest preserve, and it has a beautiful lake, I guess. It gets kind of marshy, and so you could stand in one spot and see all the way through. And what I love about water is it has a surface, reflections, and then stuff on the surface. So I tell my students I love pond scum because it sort of breaks that watery surface. So I really enjoy painting water for that reason, because you just get movement. You get what's underneath, you get what's on the water, you get what's reflected in the water.
Have you always been drawn to nature type settings, like when you were a kid and everything too, or is it something that kind of developed later?
No, because I think that as a kid, I drew what was around me, and it was people. It wasn't landscapes. Again, because I grew up in suburbia or New York. So, and then I went to the Art Student League where you learn to draw the figure. So I really was immersed in the figure. And when I was at Tyler School of Arts, I think it might have been my sophomore year, my painting teacher took us out to the, it's like what am I trying to say, the mining country in Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania ore, where they had these huge coal breakers. And it was like, my first landscapes were coal breakers. And it really was coinciding with my move to the Midwest, because when I lived in Philadelphia, the only landscape I had there was like the cemetery in the back of my house, where I used to go paint, but it wasn't landscape, there was no depth. I just was entranced by these, huge vistas, which I think is why I really concentrate on getting that spatial depth.
Now, one thing I don't think we've touched on yet is the name of your show, which is kind of important, right?
Yeah.
So can you tell me the name of your show and just briefly a little bit about it?
So the name of my show is Passion for Landscape, and the truth is I've been showing my landscapes now for, I don't know, maybe 20 years, and honestly you run out of names. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, that's what this is. It is my passion, my ongoing passion for landscape. And I don't use the word lightly because it's kind of hard to convey the feeling I get when I see, it's not like I love beautiful landscapes just because they're soothing. I love them because of the form or the lighting or the shadows or the depth or, the elements that make up a landscape. So I really do feel like the best art you can make is what you are most passionate about. People say that the paintings are very strong and dramatic and even sometimes a little bit moody, and that's how I feel about them. I really do, I feel passionate about them.
I personally like how all of they're so colorful. There's like, it's just, and they're all so different from one another. So yeah, that's probably my favorite thing about your work.
Well, I love color, and it's nice that you're responding to that, because the way that I work with broken brushstroke and layering, you get vivid colors as opposed to blending and mixing. So you're getting some very dark, some very light lights, and all of the colors hopefully excite your eye, because your eye is actually doing the work of mixing them. It's like an optical mixture.
One of the things too that I read, I can't remember if it was on your website or if it was in the thing that Jack wrote up that he sent out, the press release. Mm-hmm. Your work has been displayed or shown or has been purchased by, was it American Airlines or United? One of the airline companies. It's also been shown in movies.
Yeah, so again, as an artist, we do a lot of things to stay afloat, and some of the best things that have happened to me just sort of come to me, and a couple of those opportunities were showing my work in movies, showing my work on the set of TV shows. I was with a big gallery for a very long time, so I had the opportunity to have my work sold to a lot of corporations. A lot of corporations have corporate collections. So if you walk into Deloitte Touche or you walk into United Airlines, I actually had a piece in Japan with United Airlines. So that's been really fun. Sometimes you don't know where your work is going, but when a gallery sells to a corporation, they let you know, so you can build up your list of corporate clients. So I'll be, talking to somebody or in a class, and they'll go, I saw your work. Where was I? Oh yeah, I was at such and such hotel or such and such bank. So it's kind of fun.
That's kind of cool. You get to share.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Nothing, I just sneezed.
Oh, no, you're fine.
I was trying to hold it until you got done.
Oh my goodness.
I didn't hear it.
I didn't hear it. You're
Yeah,
a quiet sneezer.
I didn't either.
Quiet sneezer.
Are you okay?
I'm fine.
Okay. So I just have a couple more questions here. I didn't go according to this.
That's
and
fine.
I hope that's cool.
No, it's fine.
One of the questions that I have for you that I really wanted to ask was, you're kind of back here at South Suburban, kind of not necessarily where it all started, but one of your very first teaching places. What is it like to be back at SSC today?
Oh, it's really wonderful. Well, the first thing I did was I came out of the elevator, I walked through the painting studio, and I took a deep breath, and I was like, oh, I love this. It's great. I love the mess, and I love the fact that students are getting excited about it. I loved teaching in college because it was so important to me, and it set me on my path. So even showing here, hopefully I can, sort of communicate that kind of excitement. Now I don't teach in colleges anymore. I'm teaching in different art leagues, and I take students to Europe in the summer, so I'm teaching more adults, but it's exciting to be back in a college setting.
What are you looking forward to about the students coming in today to view your work?
I learn about my work by having other people look at it. I'm so used to it. I don't know what other people see when they look at it. So it's really educational for me to answer questions about it or to hear what they think about it. I am excited about sharing ideas about color and technique. The color's a little bit different. I'm not using a lot of local color. You notice that although these are landscape, the gallery isn't at all green. There's actually very little green in my paintings. So I hope that they'll be curious about how I'm building up color and what I'm looking for. You know, the scale of them is pretty big. Maybe that'll be exciting to some of the students. So hopefully it just kind of gets them interested and excited. And since I'm so excited about it, it's kind of like spreading the joy.
Why do you think it's important to have a gallery like this for students to be able to come and visit while they're attending college?
I think to some people, being an artist is like a mysterious, magical thing. And what students need to know is that it's a lot of work and that it takes a lot of focus and determination and a lot of joy also. So hopefully if they're thinking at all about being an artist, they can look around here and go, okay, this is one way to do it, and you know, maybe I can do it too.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I'm just really happy to see the work hung. When you get it out of the studio, it looks really different in a gallery. So I just really appreciate the opportunity to share it with everybody here at South Suburban.
Eric, anything you'd like to ask?
No, actually, you covered it, but if you want, I will put down my headset.
Take a
You two
photo?
We could take an
so you
action
can-
shot.
So you can fake some shots here.
Oh, sure, whatever you
But your
want.
phone went dead, so I didn't stop.
What's that?
Your phone went off, so I couldn't.
Oh, well, here. We have ways of fixing that. Just take a couple of shots. Who is texting me? Here we go. Oh, camera.
That was not me.
Looks a lot like that.
That was you. I saw your face.
So
and I
will
was
you
like,
get, Kristen?
Can you grab my sweater actually?
Oh,
She was so nuts.
Just, I don't want, I've got like a name on the back of this shirt.
you don't want to be advertising them.
Huh?
You don't want to be advertising
I
them.
don't want to be advertised. I know.
Hey, that's your coat name.
I know.
Is it Bulldog?
No, it says Casey Debris on the back. And
Oh!
It's just like a fake superhero name that we
Okay,
have in our
so
department,
just pretend that we're actually
Just keep
Yeah,
talking.
you and I could just chat about whatever we want.
blah, blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah, blah,
yeah.
blah. I'm getting a terrible after image in this. It's red
What do you mean?
in the light.
Oh.
I'm really sensitive to color, and I see like after images all the time. And so it must have a greenish cast because I'm seeing red.
Really?
Not there, but there, because
Like
it's
not
close to
anger,
me.
right?
No,
Not
no,
anger.
no,
I
no,
know,
no,
I'm
no, no.
joking.
No, it's actually gone red on me.
Wow,
I
that's
know.
weird.
Yeah,
We'll
welcome to
kill
my
the lights
world.
As soon as this
Okay,
is,
that'll
this
be
is
good.
done. Yeah,
That'll be good,
yeah.
thanks.
Sorry that we've got to throw them in your face. It just
all
allows
right.
us to be able to see you well.
Not a worry. It's cool.
You turning it down?
Oh,
Now
thanks.
I'm getting my side over here.
Oh,
Okay.
there you go. Yeah.
So you graduated from here with a degree
I
in.
actually went to Purdue. So
Oh, cool.
I'm originally from Northwest Indiana. I graduated from Purdue with my degree in broadcast communication in
Mm-hmm.
2009. Oddly enough, at that time, there was a position opening here,
Mm-hmm.
and it was suggested that I apply for it. I was thinking, they're not going to hire me. I'm right out of college. Why would they do that?
Why not?
And they actually went to hire somebody like from LA. He turned it down, and so they hired me.
Oh my
And
God, that is so awesome. I
Yeah.
really thought you were like a student worker.
That's awesome. But no, I'm
Yeah.
not.
Okay.
But I like to come across because I
You
think
do.
it makes it more likely for people to not only agree to interviews, but to also kind of relate, I think, a little bit better, especially this being like a college environment.
But it's also great that you do this because we didn't do this when I was here first time around.
Yeah, no, I love
Thank
this.
you. No,
Yeah,
it's fabulous.
yeah,
And
it's
where
so
will
much
the
fun.
students see it?
So it'll be on it'll actually be on our portal website. We have a website called Portal where all the students should log into to get their email and stuff like that. So it'll be on the
Oh,
portal.
thanks.
It'll be